Planet of the Apes is a really interesting and fantastic traditional tale, but it's definitely different. And if you've grown up on the current franchise, the movies that have been playing for the last few years, then there's a chance that you might not realize how much of a deviation the story has taken over the last 50 years. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, so my attachment to this franchise that we're going to talk about today is a little different. And I'm very, very excited to be talking to Drew Gaska, the creative director over at Magnetic Press, for the role-playing game of the Planet of the Apes, about this current ongoing campaign, about the universe that is actually inhabited within these pages, and what it might mean to find yourself in one way or another living on the Planet of the Apes. Thank you very much, friends, for joining. I hope you're excited to talk about this. And if you are, please hit like, please subscribe, please comment if you're watching live, and let us know what you think. Very excited, as I said. So with Devious Dungeons, Foreboding Forests, and The Coolest Cats, please welcome Andrew E.C. Gaska. And hello from me. Welcome back to the Dark Orb. Hey, Drew, how are you doing, my friend? It's been a while.
Yeah, we need to do this more often for sure.
Well, yeah, totally. I was trying to think. I mean, I didn't go looking at dates, but definitely the last time we had you on was for the campaign for Carbon Grey, and that's going back a while.
Yeah, like 2 years, I think.
Probably.
Maybe 3. I don't know.
I definitely lived in a different city at that time. So that's at least 2 years, right? So how are things?
I've moved as well.
Moved
as well. So yeah, I'm in North Carolina now. I was in St. Louis one last month.
Yeah. I remember having St. Louis envy because that's on my bucket list. I've been to North Carolina technically, so I don't care about that. Let's go back to St. Louis. I want to go and see the Blues play. How are things?
Busy. Obviously, we've got the Planet of the Apes pre-order campaign live on Kickstarter right now. And we've been finalizing all the books because as soon as the campaign's over, they're going to the printer. And in addition to that, juggling, answering all these questions with the community, and a million interviews. Which thank you for having me on, by the way.
Thank you for joining us.
And on top of that, prepping what we're doing next. So it's a busy time.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I mean, always good to be busy, and particularly I know how hard the role-playing industry is. So better to be busy than not, I guess. But at this time of the cycle, particularly with Kickstarters, I know it gets very stressful, and you just don't get a time to stop, right? Because you're answering everything that's going on in the campaign, and also strategizing and product managing and writing. Yeah, I mean, how does it compare to like how your experiences of the industry were, say, kind of 5 years ago?
So, I mean, really, my role playing, I've been I was a gamer since I was 11, but my role playing career started with Alien. So
that's true.
Completely different. Yeah. That was before I had 10 awards, and it's just like
yeah. Just come on, just rub it in.
Well, I mean, it's funny because I think I was like, okay, Alien got all its awards and it's kind of done with now. And then Building Better Worlds just got 2 UK GE awards, and it's up for 2 Emmys. So it's like, okay, I guess people are still in it.
It's a great game. It's a great game, and I'd love to dig into that. And of course, I would imagine that as and by the way, hi to Sanjiro Takagi. Always get your name wrong. We know you as Bruce. So if you'd like to talk about this, by the way, further on, talk about this interview. I can't promise Drew will be there, but obviously we have a Discord. I'll make sure that the show notes get updated. You're welcome to join us on the Discord, and obviously Patreon and all that sort of stuff. When you were involved with Alien, I would presume that you maybe had less direct involvement in the Kickstarter and more to do with the creative element of that. Is that the case? Or
Well, there was no Kickstarter for Alien. It was a pre-order.
you're just showing me up now.
Because
Yeah, you're right. I remember that. The later, yeah,
20th Century Studios at that time was not willing to do a Kickstarter. It's like we're actually either the second or third Kickstarter that they've ever done.
Right.
Because I mean, honestly, we were trying to convince them all the time this is something to do because it's a community event. It's not like a company like Magnetic needs the money to make the product. You know, it's not a crowdfunding so much as a pre-order.
Yes.
And it's been it's been great. I mean, we I think we funded in 15 minutes. I think it says on the Kickstarter page.
Yeah, funded in 15 minutes, right there on the badge.
We got up pretty good, pretty high, and then we did the usual mid-campaign stall because that's what happens at most Kickstarters. And so now we're in the final week, and we want to make sure that we get up higher because honestly, there's so much cool stuff that we still haven't unlocked or shown that is tied to the pre-order campaign and will not be available in retail.
Right.
So it basically, if we don't reach these tiers, this cool stuff we're not going to be able to give people.
And that's a very different approach.
I think we're going to do.
Sorry, Drake, on.
Right. Yeah, well, it's certain things you can do for promotion.
Yeah.
And certain things you can do for retail. Otherwise, you're kind of playing games with the legal part of the licensing deal. So, basically, we figured out, can we do this if it's things that get unlocked from a pre-order? And they were like, in the end, they were like, yeah, you can do that. Just gotta sell them through your store. So this is the way we're doing it, and we can't send that stuff to retail. So that basically means we can't make a bunch of these miniature sets unless we reach that financial tier for each one. Okay, because on the retail products, we made them; they're going to the store. If we never did any money on the pre-order, they were going to the store. It's a totally different event because they were allowed to go to retail. So it's a weird situation, but it allowed us to bring so much more to the table. And I really wish people will get to see all of it.
No, I totally get you. And it's a little bit of a different approach. I know that some Kickstarters, the content that's been created is going to get created regardless, and actually there's a little bit of a tweaking in what's really exclusive bonuses that are kind of already lined up to be manufactured, particularly if it's published content, printed content, versus Kickstarter material that is really for promotion. And it's
right, and this isn't the printed content is. It's ready to go. We're doing the final proofs on the things. We made minor corrections and stuff like that. That's not what we're talking about here. It's the miniature sets. We have the core miniature set, which has been part of the plan from the beginning. But even that is not going to retail. That miniature set is only going to be available on our website.
Yeah.
So these bigger miniature sets, to reach a funding to be unlocked, because it's not really what it's about. It's not the pre-order. It's, hey, you pre-ordered this, we're going to unlock these cool things for you to buy as well, or not. And so in addition to that, we've got stretch goals that we've had along the way. We've been adding all this free stuff. One of my favorites was just recently unlocked. It's a replica of it's called a Gridgen, which was established in the comics a long time ago as the currency that they use in Ape City. So I designed a coin with the lawgiver's face on it, like on the side, the way a president's face would be on one of our coins, and it says "An Ape We Trust" on it, and has one of the dates from the movies in it, and it's going to be like a gunmetal color. And look, if we're trying to get it so that it's a little misshapen, like an older coin was made, like when they used to make pounded metal coins. And it what's cool about it is that it's something we call a live action memento. Yeah, if you played Carbon Gray, I don't remember if you have or not, but if you played Carbon Gray, there were things called mementos that give your character a little bit of bonus in the game. So it's like, I've carried this doll with me since childhood, and having it around me gives me a +1 to my will grit, skills. But the live action mementos do a lot more. If you're at the game, if you're at the game and you put that on the table, then there's rules for that item. And if it's something you've made up with your lawgiver, which is the game master, then they have you lawgiver, and you have to figure out what those rules are going to be beforehand. But if it's something like this, which we've provided, that coin, if you're starting your character with it, you get extra money, so you can play a rich character instead. Um, and if you use it, you're allowed to use it up to 6 times in a game session. But there's a catch, because if you use it more than twice, then you start to attract the attention. Basically, there's consequences for your actions. So you'll attract the attention of thieves and con apes who are trying to pull one over on you, and ape canvassers who are trying to get you to back a cause. So it changes the nature of the game. And we've tried to do that with everything. It's like everything adds something to the table experience. Oh,
yeah, I know my audio's just done something stupid. Bear with me.
I can't hear you.
I know. Can you hear me now? No, I've lost.
I wonder if it's on my end.
There we go. Now you can hear me.
There we go. It wasn't on my
I'm
end.
just struggling with audio for a second on my side, so bear with me. But yeah, I mean, that sounds great. So he says, talking blindly whilst he tries to get his audio to work. So it sounds like there's a direct deviation from the traditional system that you're going to use. Then there's some additional rules that you're putting on top of the D6 West End Games D6 system that you're using.
Yeah, so our system is the D6MV, which is the magnetic variant.
Yeah.
And the core of the rules are the same as people know from Star Wars. Back when West End Games did that in the 80s. Okay. But one of the things we've tried to do, look, if every game we produce has just that rule system, get bored real fast, right? So we've plugged in modular rules that apply specifically to different franchises, so that you get that feeling. It's like working on Alien. I will, which wasn't for this. It was for Free League and their system. I've said all along that the most brilliant thing that they came up with over there was the stress mechanic, because that really makes Alien unique.
Right.
And so when thinking in that way, I realized there are things that are totally unique to every franchise, and any franchise we approach, we have got to have, these are your core rules, but these are the add-ons that specifically have to do with this. And I can tell you an example of one of those, if you like.
Please.
The options that you have to play in this are not just apes and not just astronauts.
Awesome.
You can also play one of the mutant factions. There's 2 different mutant factions. There's the Fellowship of the Bomb, which we see in the second movie.
Mm-hmm.
They worship an atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know. And then there's the Underdwellers, who are actually from the animated series.
Okay.
Who actually worship a tree. And the funny story about why they worship a tree is that when they first were making the show, the human characters sneak into their church and see them, and the way the script was is that the bomb raises, just like in the movie, right? But the producers got upset, or corporate got upset that, no, we can't have a atomic bomb in a kids show. So at the last minute, they changed it to a tree that comes up out of their house. They worship the green. So we made that a different mutant culture, and they're in conflict because the Fellowship wants to basically conquer them and convert them all to worshiping the bomb.
Yeah,
but that's not where I was going with rules. That's just a cool tangent. You can also play tribal humans.
Okay.
And also, and so which is, now they can't talk. Right?
Yeah.
And we know eventually they can talk because Nova finally says a word in the second movie. She says Taylor's name.
Yeah.
So when you start with a tribal human character, if you're the only tribal human character at the table, you're not allowed to speak. you have to pantomime to tell people what you're trying to do, including the
Amazing.
lawgiver. Okay, so I mean, we basically made this for people who really want a role playing challenge. Okay, I don't expect many people are going to play the tribal humans, but people who really want a challenge are going to go for it.
I'm just imagining the entire table of it, Drew. I'm just saying.
Well, okay, no, see, that's the thing. Here's the thing: like the tribal humans, if I look at you with a certain face, you know that means there's stuff like that. So if you're just playing tribal humans, you all can just say, "Well, I tell," because you're talking in whatever they have
their language, if you like.
Yeah. I mean, cats can communicate with each other without language, so cat knows when another cat's pissed off. And so basically all that stuff is fine. It's when you're playing with the other types that you're not allowed to. But because of this, aside from the pantomime, you can learn gestural language, which is sign language, if you're taught it by someone else. And the only people who would know that would be apes or astronauts. Mm-hmm. So if there's an ape or an astronaut that's part of your group and they know that, they can slowly teach you that. And there's rules for that. And then on top of that, if you keep spending experience points towards it, the more you are around talking people, you will eventually start to babble and eventually start to be able to speak. So, and that's what the apes are terrified of, humans being able to speak. So while you've gained this ability, now I can just talk at the table after pantomiming for a year and a half. This is great. At the same time, now you are a bigger target. So everything has checks and balances. But developing that I'm not going to put that in another game because, okay, so you're going to go this progression to learn to speak. I mean, you decide you're going to play a new character, or you decide you're going to play a character who speaks, and that's it. Nothing to do with that property, but a big core part of the Apes, especially since in the Ansa source book, you can play in different time periods. So you can actually play in the time period of Conquest, which is the fourth film. And I think we need to explain all this in a minute.
I was thinking that.
Because in that time period, apes can't speak. So in that time, if you're the only ape at the table, you have to pay.
Yeah.
So it works on so many levels. So creating plans, creating rules specifically to a franchise and plugging them into this core system, which is it's modular enough to do that without violating it. It's not like it's a house of cards and it's going to fall apart. So yes, so I talked way too much on that, so I apologize.
No, you didn't. That was amazing. But you did touch on something which I do feel we should probably do, which is I've kind of mentioned in the intro that a lot of people, well, I'm speculating that there are many people who have seen the new movies or some of the new movies where, and I know we can't really talk about that, it's a different franchise, but in a nutshell, there are apes that are intelligent, and the whole plot around that revolves around genetics and viruses and scientific research gone wrong, that kind of trope. But back in the day, there was a series of films, Charlton Heston, many other amazing actors, which started, nearly 50 years ago, right? And that's a really different setting. Would you be able to just touch a little bit on that background and also your personal attachment to that? Would be really interested to hear what drove you to even begin to think about creating a role-playing game around this franchise.
So in the original film, astronauts crash land on a planet which used to be a desert planet at first. And they believe that they were on a mission testing a new drive system, which they knew was going to take them about a year to get to the place where the solar system they're headed for, Alpha Centauri. And but they knew that in that time period, hundreds upon hundreds of years was going to pass because of time dilation. And but when they crash, they think, oh my gosh, we crashed on this alien world. We have no way to get back. But even if we did, our world has changed for sure. And they start trekking through the desert to try and find, civilization. And when they do find a civilization, it's a civilization of apes. And on the planet they're on, humans are dumb; they don't speak, and they're living like, nomadic, eating up crops in an area and then moving on to the next one. Um, stealing from the apes pretty much, and they're considered a pestilence. And the apes basically hunt them down, and sometimes they take some for scientific experimentation. Um, Through the course of the film, the main character, Taylor, played by Chuck Feston, winds up convincing some of the apes that he can speak, that he's intelligent at first. And then they sort of befriend him, and then he finally speaks, and now he's a threat to all of society. He couldn't speak at first because he got shot in the throat when he was captured. So it becomes this big, talk about what makes us intelligent, and a lot of it's about the almost like a look at the Spanish Inquisition, where it's like, what's the proof that I have a divine soul and you don't, that type of thing. And so, long story long, at the end of the film, Taylor and Nova, who's a tribal human who he's grown close to, are basically get away into what is the Forbidden Zone, which is what that desert area is, and stumble upon, spoiler alert for a film from 1968, the Statue of Liberty, finally realizing that he's been home on Earth all along. Yes, this is a big shocker. So that was intended to just be a film on its own, and it's a perfect ending. Realizing the Taylor's transition throughout the film starts as he hated mankind and was happy to leave Earth behind him, to ironically becoming the champion of humankind, on this new iteration of civilization, and then to have all his thoughts and hopes crushed because man was just as stupid as he thought they were, and they blew themselves up. So no sequel was intended, but of course, when a movie does really well, even back then, they were like, "All right, we need a sequel." I won't go through each one of the films for so long as I just did this one, but
I'm sure you
core
could.
of the thing, and I figured, yeah,
absolutely.
But Chuck Heston didn't want to be in the next movie, so he's in 5 minutes of it, and there's another astronaut character introduced, and spoiler for the end of that movie, the world blows up. It's like someone activates the Alpha Omega bomb, which is the atomic bomb that can destroy everything, and then it like cuts to black and says, on an insignificant green planet, is now dead, and it's just like, what? The credits start rolling. Like, what happened? It, like, screws you up if you're a kid watching it.
Yep.
Like that's so brutal. Like, wait, what happened?
I'd forgotten that detail. It's been.
There's 3 sequels.
Yeah,
that's the best part. There's 3 sequels.
I think I've seen the first 3 movies, but I remember them being on television. So it would have been. It probably was the mid to late 80s, or maybe the very early 90s. I was very young, and I have seen them, the first couple at least, since then, but like 20 years ago. Yeah, there were just. I mean, there was nothing like it in terms of the way that they felt, and I think there's something to be said for 60s and 70s science fiction movies anyway, because they have generally, even the kind of far-fetched ones, have a bit more grit to them, and obviously a lot less polished than we have now. But I think they tend to focus more on the story. You kind of have to when you can't really focus on realism in effects, right? So,
it's interesting though, because they also didn't think audiences paid attention to little minute details, and probably part of that was because there was no VHS tape or anything. You would only see this movie again when it eventually came to TV, which was going to be at least 5 to 10 years later. Yeah. So, what do you call it? There are dates and discrepancies and little weirdness, especially between the first 2 films.
Yeah, continuity.
Yeah, and so my experiences with that. Well, first of all, those first two movies is pretty much the time period that the core book is set in.
Right.
Okay,
Perfect.
now not with those specific characters
Hmm.
because it's just designed to sort of be your Planet of the Apes.
Right.
But in the Ansem source book, we go through the details of every film. We have characters from every film, things you can add to your campaign. Also, we have the different time periods, which we'll get into in a minute, as you can play campaigns in those different time periods instead in that source book. So that book is 312 pages. The core book is 308. Um, but when I was a kid, there was something called the 4:30 movie in New York on ABC. And for the week, they would go, it's Apes Week, and they'd play the first four movies that week. Um, they didn't have the rights to the fifth movie, which I never even knew existed until I went to college because I thought, well, I watched all the Planet of the Apes movies when I was a kid. Um, but because it was, I think this was like 78, and that movie came out in, I want to say 73. So it was only 5 years, so there were no rights to TV yet because back then that's how it worked.
Yeah.
But between the first and the second movie, I saw all these discrepancies. Even as a kid, I was like, wait a minute. Dr. Zayas arrested them at the end of the last film and told them they were going to stand trial for heresy. And in the second film, they're best buds with Dr. Zayas. And they were only engaged in the second film, but now they're acting like they've been married forever. Engaged in the first film, and now they're acting like they're married forever in the second film. And it's like, wait, what's going on? So in my head, as a child, I actually assumed that there must have been another movie in between those two that for some reason wasn't on TV. And I filled in the blanks in my head what must have happened in that movie. And then from childhood to college, Apes is not one of the things that stuck with me. Star Wars stuck with me. Star Trek stuck with me. So in college, when they started playing on the movie channel, um, I I was reintroduced to them all, and I began to realize that movie that I thought was part of the franchise for years and thought explained all these answers was something I just made up in my head. And I thought, well, maybe that'd make a great novel or two. And that's where my two Planet Eat novels go. They cover the material that I actually, as a child, just assumed, well, this must have been true. Um, Obviously written by an adult, so it's a little bit better than it was back then, but not that. But
and then he said, and then they said,
and then it's always and then, and then I just said and then on purpose. I mean on accident. So, okay, what happened next was after I wrote my first Apes novel. 4 years later, I got a call from a franchise director at 20th Century Studios who said, "Hey, I read your novel," which was a shock to me in the first place because usually some intern reads it. But they said, "I read your novel, and I think you may know some of the stuff better than we do. Do you want to be a franchise consultant?"
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Who says no? Yeah, no thanks. Of course, I want to be a franchise consultant." So I worked on the Planet of the Apes internal Bible. I wrote the 700-page Predator internal Bible all on my own. And I worked on the Alien Bible, the Alien and the Apes one other people were working on as well. In the process for all this, when War of the Planet of the Apes came out, it didn't make the money they had hoped. So even though it was a critical success, I don't know what it was about that year because Alien Covenant also didn't do as well as
yeah,
and
yeah,
it was sort of going on with everything.
It was funny, yeah.
So we were planning on doing a huge expansion of the Apes Bible internally, and when War didn't come out, underperformed, they were like, "Well, we can't justify the money expenditure." So basically, all this freelance work you thought you were getting, you're not getting now. And at that point, I was strictly freelance. I was no longer in video games.
Yeah.
So I said, "All right, I have to find a way to make work for myself." And in the end, I wound up working for a company called Lionforge, which has actually become Polarity, and that's the parent company for Magnetic.
Yeah.
But one of the things the director told me was, if you can find a publishing window that we haven't filled yet for any of the properties that we work with, and find a publisher who wants to do it, we'll give them that license and recommend you write it since we know what to expect from you.
Nice.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I looked at Alien and I was like, wouldn't it be great to have an Alien role play? And I shopped it around for 18 months. And in that 18 months, everyone told me, oh, we don't, I'm sorry, my cat is giving a crap. 1 second, I got to give him snacks. Everyone told me, there you go, bud. Everyone told me it's a one-trick pony. It'll never sell. Blah blah blah. Oh, when you see the Alien, how many times can you do that? And I was like, there's a huge universe here, comics, novels, and everything. Yeah. You can play for ages without even ever seeing an Alien. So,
and anyway,
luckily,
we've got imaginations. We can pretend we didn't see anything.
Yeah. Right. So, luckily, my friend Joe LaFavi, he makes magic. Like he gets a property, he finds out about a property that he's looking to expand. He finds the right publisher, puts them together, it wins awards. This is just like Joe's MO, right? Yeah. Joe is much younger than me, but I always tell people when I grow up I want to be Joe LaFavi. So at any rate, Joe had just met Free League, and he told Free League, tell me what your top list is. And they said Alien and Blade Runner. And so, meanwhile, I can't sell Alien. And so I called Joe randomly and said, listen, I just got off the phone with another company that just screwed me over by not playing games for the past 6 months and then not committing. Yeah. It's like, so if you could find home for Alien, that would be great. And he had literally the week before just spoken to Free League. So that's where that magic happened. And that's what started my role-playing career. Because even though I had gamed forever, I had not ever even considered that I would be doing it professionally. I knew I was going to be a novelist, which I wound up writing 2 Apes novels in the end. Yeah. And even that I didn't expect, actually, because I first went into comics. Right. So it's novels came about because we had a comic project for Planet of the Apes that all of a sudden the studio didn't want to do comics anymore. And I was like, oh, when I say comics, I sort of mean like prose with illustrations, sort of like that Aliens Tribes book you guys put out ages ago. And the then licensing person was like, Aliens Tribes is my favorite project I've ever worked on. You have your license. And so I was like, great, now I need to learn how to write a novel. So it's like each of these cases in my career, it's like, oh, I guess I need to try to figure out how to do this now. And luckily I've been able to pull it off. So yeah, long story long, once again, with the role-playing game, when I came to work for Lionforge, who I said is now called Polarity, and they are the parent company of Magnetic Press. My boss there said, well, you have all these contacts in licensing. What can you get us? And I said, well, I can get you Planet of the Apes for a role-playing game. Really easy. And they're like, yeah, do it. And we got the rights. And then the company went through transitions where they changed into different departments and were becoming what they are now. And they needed to do that. It was growing pains, but at the same time, in the middle of that, a bunch of things got put to the side. And so the Apes rights we had, and I had pursued the West End Games rights in order to use for it, and that got put aside. And then the pandemic comes.
Boo.
And my department gets closed because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so now I'm unemployed. And I'm just going to be, once again, I'm going to be just freelance. And Mike Kennedy, the publisher of Magnetic, calls me one day because he was actually my first publisher for the Apes novel back in 2011.
Yeah.
So when he worked for Archaea Press, and so now he works for he created Magnetic Press and it became part of Polarity. He calls me. He goes, I'm going through the records here, and it looks like somehow we have the rights to do a Planet of the Apes game, and we have the rights for West End game stuff as well. Did you know that? And I was like, I'm the one who got us those rights. So he's like, oh, that's great. Do you want to do the game? So I was like, absolutely.
This is why I got them. Damn it.
Yeah. So there's this crazy road to get where all these things happen. It's just so many stops along the way. And I always say, like, I've known super talented people all my life because I went to school of visual arts
Yeah.
and like so many brilliant artists. I was originally going to be an artist, and then I realized my hand just doesn't produce what my mind does when it comes to writing.
Yeah, I
So,
empathize with that.
so the problem is that they can't see these roadblocks, and they're just like, "This isn't working. I can't do this," and I'm too stupid to stop. Is what it comes down to.
You're a
I'm like,
visionary, Drew.
okay, thank you. I'm like, all right, well, that failed. What can I do to make sure that doesn't happen next time?
Yep.
Okay, let's try again. We'll put that into, and eventually that worked. So
yeah, no, I get it. I get it completely. Okay, so I am probably putting words into your mouth, but then Planet of the Apes is kind of, this is your. Would you say this is your what's the word I'm looking for? Like, this is your labor of love. This is the project that you really wanted to get off the ground out of the licenses that you had. It's the one that has kind of, I guess, been there the longest.
Yes. What's so funny about it though is that each step of the way, I'm like, when I did the first novel, I had 6 novels. Okay.
Yeah.
And the first novel came out and it did well, and then the publisher didn't do anything about putting the next one in the license lapsed. Okay. So I was like, well, I guess I'm done with Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And then I got the call, the consultant. I was like, oh, I guess I'm back. Okay. And then Titan wanted to do the second novel. And then I think, well, that's the end of that. And then now this. So it's like I've been living on a planet full of apes since I first went after that license back in 2005, 2006, somewhere like that. So yeah, apes has become part of my legacy. I think I will always be known as the Alien guy because Alien was the first success, major success, like award-winning success. But
how many awards? Sorry.
But yeah, no, Apes. 11, but 10 of them are part of what I did for the stuff. I don't ever claim award. Like the other one is best production values. I didn't pick the paper. I didn't do all that cool stuff that they did. So I never count those. So it's if it says best supplement, best this, and best writing or best cartography, because in many of the books I did the maps, and then the graphic designer came in and cleaned them up to make them look, like the green with everything like that. So yeah, if those I consider them mine because I was part of that. I am not going to take credit for something. So 10.
Yeah, it's an incredible achievement to do, and it speaks to the consistency with your writing as well. So I don't think that can be understated. In that, it's really important that there is consistency when you're putting out multiple books for a single franchise, and that can only happen if you really know the material inside out. And I know that that's something that you really strive for. I mean, many of us have seen the What is Canon Bible for Alien, for example, which you put out a few years ago. Even in the last 6 months, I've referred to that when having conversations with people, although it needs updating. I'm sure you've...
Oh, yes. I haven't updated in a long time, but I just put up a Planet of the Apes.
Awesome. Let's check that out.
It's on roguereviewer.wordpress.com. That's my blog for people who don't know. And it's called The Canon of the Planet of the Apes.
I will make sure to put that in the show notes. Canon.
Cool.
I'm taking a note now. So we'll make sure that's in the show notes down below, so you can check that out. So
I don't even know if on the Alien one, I don't even think I put Building Better Worlds there yet. It needs an update.
There have been a few things I think that have come out since then, and video games and stuff. So it would be cool to see an update to that at some point. Is there a particular story or a theme that actually spoke to you and made you want to bring this to life as a role-playing game rather than just as a novel? Is there an experience that you kind of wanted people to have that you felt would be really great as a role-playing game?
Well, yeah, I guess for me, what really changed things for me in the franchise was these novels that came out when I was a kid that were these awesome adult novels about these other astronauts who came onto Planet of the Apes, but in their Planet of the Apes, they came to the apes had vehicles and technology, electricity, and but like the way the characters were characterized and everything. I mean, there's awesome fight scenes. Like at one point, there's a gorilla who's strangling with the one of the astronauts, and he's gonna black out, and he only gets the gorilla off him by digging his thumbs into his eyes. And it's like all this brutal stuff and everything, and it's just like wow, it really captured the mind as a kid. And then the funny thing that turns out now they all have photo covers,
Mm-hmm.
right? They were not original novels. They were adaptations of the animated series scripts.
Oh, interesting.
But they purposely did not put animation covers on the books because they wanted adults to buy.
Yeah.
So basically, until my novels came out, there was no original novels in Planet of the Apes classic universe. In the 70s, every single novel was an adaptation of a film or TV show or animation.
Yeah.
But the story that they told, and like for people who don't even know, if you're an Apes fan, don't know about the animation is awful. Like it's one of those things where the things barely move in the screen.
Yeah.
But Doug Wildey, who is responsible for Johnny Quest, which is one of the most awesome animated things ever.
Yeah.
He was the art director for this Apes cartoon. So what happens is you'll have things barely moving. There's some animation looks terrible, and then like a zoom in on Dr. Zaius's face with lightning bolts, and it's the most intricately detailed piece of art that Doug has ever done. And it's like all of a sudden it's amazing, and then it goes back to the crap animation. So it's a lot of people are put off by that and don't get into it. And the story, especially the way it's told in the novels, is amazing, and it shows all these opportunities to go on quests and try to discover other things. The TV series did this to a lesser extent because the characters, it's almost like the TV series is a series of one-shot adventures. Because the characters, the two astronauts and their chimpanzee friend that they befriended through circumstance, they all wind up being on the run from the law, go to a town, solve the town's problems, escape just before the authorities show up. So it's that could be a bunch of series of single one shots. And the anime series for 1975, to have an anime series where each episode leads into the next one, it's all a continuing story. Unheard of back then, actually probably unheard of between then and Robotech in 1984. So it just showed me you could do a saga with this type of thing. You throw some monsters in the Forbidden Zone, and you could totally change up everything so that your apes can have totally different adventures than your astronauts, and mutants could have a complete different storyline, and they could all intersect. And there's big stakes here, and the biggest thing for me about Planet of the Apes is the social political commentary that's behind the action of all that. I remember as a kid watching the movies and thinking, "Oh, great, monkeys on horseback with guns! I'm in." And then rewatching it as an adult and being like, "Huh." They're really saying things about how we're screwed up. They're really talking about us. They're not talking about AIDS. Yeah. And it's so many important issues. So in the game, we worked in thematic modes where the two modes are, they're modes of play. And one of them is thematic mode. And the other one is if you don't want to deal with like big issues like Star Trek does and stuff like that. Yeah. You want to, if you instead just want action, there's literally monkeys on horseback. That's what I call it.
So with that in mind, Bruce. So first of all, Bruce said that he had a read through of the Bible, of the canon document. Quite interesting, as there's multiple lines of Planet of the Apes. Yeah, I had no idea how many different products there were. But within the game, the role-playing game of the Planet of the Apes. Available on all good Kickstarters. We'll have a look at the campaign before we wrap up. There's a lot there. We're not going to go through it all. But I presume, actually, this is a loaded question because I've read through most of or a fair amount of the Kickstarter as well. I would presume that you're playing as either the apes themselves or the humans. You did mention that you can play as tribal humans. But Bruce asked, there are actually 3 ape types. Well, yeah, so 3 primates. You've got the chimpanzees, the gorillas, and the orangutans. Orangutans? What am I talking about? The orangutans. Are there any other types going to be used?
So we address this in the game. In this ape society that you're a part of, there are only the 3 ape types, and there's verses from the sacred scrolls that explain why. Okay, about how the other apes, the other types of simians, basically didn't measure up to the lawgiver's needs, and so these 3 were made the greatest apes of all, and these slowly faded from existence. Okay, now what something that we bring up in there is what's beyond the forbidden zone.
Yeah,
like, are there other ape societies there? Are there still intelligent humans there? And one of the things that happens in the Into the Forbidden Zone box set is there is this huge section called the Seeds of Civilization, where you can generate, using our tables, what could lie beyond that. And different civilizations, different types of apes, all that stuff is up to your lawgiver to decide if they want to do.
Yeah.
And you guys got to get through the Forbidden Zone if you want to even go look for that. So good luck surviving. Because we've only seen a part of the Forbidden Zone in the movies. It's the whole area is much more expansive. So there's the civilizations are cut off from each other. Either Ape City and Simia, which is the country that Ape City has created. It's called Simia. There's provinces. Ape City is a capital. Okay, and there's all these little towns and provinces. Yes, provinces that are part of the jurisdiction of Ape City. As far as they know, they're the only surviving civilization. But chances are there's other things on the planet as well. And we will even take more looks at that as the line expands.
Well, that's just it, so there's a limit in the current core book, and obviously there's the expansion book that comes with it, which has a lot more information. But it's going to keep going, hopefully. Fingers crossed we'll see a lot more, and it will build out. And for me, I hope there'll be campaign material. I am so personally, I'm very time poor. And so in order to get a game to the table, for me, I kind of these days really rely on published material to do that rather than creating stories myself. But I think it probably just depends on the individual. I know a lot of people just like to write their own stories, and I do love to do that. But if I do that, then it's going to be years before I get a game to the table. So I think it's great. So we talked about the system as well a little bit, and I think it's really interesting because obviously there are so many different systems out there. You've got your D&D, D20 kind of, SRD kind of systems. You've got basic role playing, so Call of Cthulhu, D100, Roll Under. You've got really narrative systems like Powered by the Apocalypse, and of course Year Zero Engine, which is a D6 dice pool system. And the West End Games tradition is very similar to that. It is a D6 dice pool system, but obviously it predates Year Zero by like 20 years.
I consider the West End Games system the grandfather of modern.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
there's still a lot of crunchy stuff in there, especially the original versions. And that's why the D6 MB is an attempt to take the core of what's amazing with that, and we streamline certain things because it's like, okay, do you want 18 rolls here, or would you rather do 3 and to accomplish the same thing? And still, things are still based on your abilities. One of the things we came up with is something called SRPs, which are your defenses. It's your surprise defense, your ready defense, and your psyche defense. Psyche defense is if you're getting a mental attack. Readies is if you're, I see you standing there with a sword in front of me and I know you're coming at me. The surprise is if I'm in the bushes going to shoot you with a sniper rifle. Okay, it's a calculated number based on the attribute that you used to roll to find out if you would be able to dodge that. So instead of having to do the extra steps of math that come from that, this is a 9. So, okay, that guy has to beat a 9 plus whatever situational modifiers are there in order to shoot me. Okay, so if I have a better dexterity, that's a 12 instead. So it's little things like that that make the play much faster.
Yeah.
But don't really take away from the core of what that of the original was doing. And one of the things we did in Garmin Gray, and we also have done in places here, is we've called out, hey, we changed this part here. Here's why we changed it. This is what you would do if you want to use the original system.
Nice.
So we're not trying to replace anything. We are honoring what was there and adding stuff that you want a more modern experience. This is what you guys
do. Excellent. So not only have you effectively built on that West End Games, the original system, but you actually, I like that you're actually calling it out and helping people who really are attached to that system to still play in that system, like faithfully, if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. You did mention as well, I think this is probably the last question I'm going to ask you before we just have a little look at the campaign itself and see how it's doing, which is really well.
Okay.
There are a number of characters, obviously, in the original movies, and a lot of licensed games, in one way or another, still pull those characters in, particularly the really important NPCs, so important characters in the movies or in the comic books might come in as NPCs within a game. Are there any of those kind of really fundamental characters from the movies or any of the other published materials that you're pulling into the role-playing game?
So, like I think I mentioned before, the core book is literally the core of this is what Ape City would be like. This is what the Forbidden Zone is like.
Yeah.
This is what this is like without bringing in those specific characters.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the Ancestors book, in addition to being able to play the different time periods in there, the Ancestors book has the bios and stats for, I don't know, I want to say it's over 40 characters from the films. So, and it basically tells you in the section for the original film and beneath the first 2 films, it tells you, hey, using what we have in the core book here, add this, and now you've turned it into the movies, exactly like the movies. You know what I'm saying? So yes, you can absolutely bring those characters, but like the mutants are led by Mendez the 26th, one way or the other. Okay, is it going to be a Mendez the 26th you create for your campaign, or is it going to be the one that you see in the movies? That's up to you. You know, we wanted to give as many options for people to do whatever they want and still have like canonical, yes, canonical, that's the word, right? Sources that they could draw upon to make that decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, the answer is that you've got the stats there, and if you know those characters, you can bring them in and use them however you so wish, but it's not intrinsic. What's intrinsic or fundamental is the world and capturing
the world and whatever you bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Bruce, thank you, Bruce, by the way, for all your input this evening. Much appreciated. Says it's a nostalgia. The West End Games D6 is the system for this, given they had Ghostbusters and Star Wars back in the day, and now we see Planet of the Apes as a licensed product. And I guess that's very accurate, and it's a really good observation that given that this franchise was, the 70s, and this system came out not that long after that.
In the 80s, mid to late 80s, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So almost as traditional as you can get without it being Traveller or D&D, right? I guess BRP as well.
Right.
But it's a very... the fact that the licensed games in the 1980s, so your Star Wars and your Ghostbusters, were using the West End Games system. And this is another licensed game using... Yeah, I think that's kind of a little bit of kind of poetic justice to that. And Bruce had one...
I mean, I got it.
Yeah?
I got to admit, I mean, I feel the same way. You know, it's when I first brought when what is now Polarity first said to me, "Hey, you know games because I come from video games.
Mm.
Do you want to manage the game department?" And I was like, "We're doing video games?" They're like, "No, tabletop games." And I'm like, "That's not the same thing." But I'm not going to say anything to them. Yes, absolutely, I can manage the department because I wanted to do it.
Games
Right.
is games, right?
First thing I asked them, first thing I said to them, "Okay, what are we doing about rule systems?" I don't know if someone had figured that out already. And they're like, "Well, we make up our own rule system." I was like, "All right, I need a budget and I need 2.5 years of development." And they're like, "Let's go find a rule system." So I said, "All right, you know what? My favorite system was that West End game system. I enjoyed it so much back in the day. I'm going to hunt it down."
Yeah,
I did. Was able to get a deal. So
that's really cool. I love it. Bruce had one last question for us. To help me playing an ape, does the game come with the Roddy McDowell School of Acting techniques to help with the mindset?
unfortunately, it does not. That will be an extra $39.95 that you have to order direct from me. No, that's a lie. There is
Stretch goal.
Um, the, we the text in the core book is we had a lot of fun with it. So it's like when we talk about the West End game system. We talk about this ancient rule system that was unearthed, and now apes have made it better than it was because we are apes and apes are superior to humans. And little jokes like that throughout, I think, will help set the mood for you.
I love it, and actually, some of that wit is, if I recall correctly, yeah. I mean, there's a page all about it in the quick start, so we'll show that in a second. But yeah, if you haven't checked it out already, there is an 86-page quick start available on drive-through, free of charge. Definitely worth looking at. As is, and we'll run through this pretty quickly because I'm aware of the time. But as is the campaign. So we have 1,475 backers. Let's put this into dollars. 243, nearly $244,000. That's not an unsuccessful campaign, which is great.
Not at all.
I'm really, really pleased to see that. And
come on, guys, we can double that before the end of the week. We can double it. I guarantee it.
It's doable. It's doable. It's always hard to tell with Kickstarter where it's going to end up because those last couple days can either just sort of plateau or they can really shoot up. And yeah, I think this deserves to be even more successful than this. And when we check out the stretch goals, you'll see why. There are a number of different campaign levels, ranging from the I'm a normal person and I have a 9-to-5 job and I have to make ends meet, all the way to the I've got lots of money and I want the best, shiniest thing on the planet ever. So something for everyone here. And there's some great stretch goals. I love the fact that this campaign has the option for a whole bunch of miniatures because, there aren't that many miniatures kind of sets out there that would be completely relevant for this setting.
Right.
So having the option for that, there's a lot of people like to play with miniatures at the table. A lot of people just like the style and the aesthetic as well. So even if you're not going to use these as player aids, still really cool. And that Statue of Liberty.
I'd like to say something about the Statue of Liberty. So she's a dice tower, so you can throw dice in the back of her head and they roll out the bottom.
That's
and
amazing.
It's just we originally had her sculpted and designed as just a set piece.
Yep.
And then suddenly someone, I can't remember who it was, but someone on the team was like, "Can we make her a dice tower?" I was like, "Oh my God, why didn't we think of that before?" So we paid to have her, the person who sculpted her originally, we paid to have him figure out how to hollow her out and all this other stuff. And it's just, she's in this tilt. If you look in the movie, like she's in this tilt back a little bit.
Yeah.
They examined the photos, like trying to figure out how would we see that like that. And she must be tilting back, so she's just like in the right position for the dice tower in the first place. It's just perfect.
And every time I think about that, I also think of the third. Apologies if you haven't seen it, or I'm sure Drew you have. The third Evil Dead movie, Army of Darkness, which has a very strong nod to this movie, and it's just it's excellent. So I always, whenever I think of the Evil Dead movie or Army of Darkness, it makes me think of Planet of the Apes and vice versa. So I always end up with this kind of, I guess, like some sort of ADHD loop. uh, but yeah, these are. I mean, there are a bunch of stretch goals. It's not just these. There's a lot of information here. But yeah, there's an idea of all the kind of things that you get. So a bunch of miniatures.
What I find interesting is that nobody has asked us what is with the sea serpent thing.
Yeah,
because it comes from the animated series, but everybody seems to just accepted it.
Well, I mean, I just accept that I don't know everything from the franchise, and that I presume that other people will. But I guess some people are just going to presume that you've just made it up and thrown it in there, right?
Yeah, no, he's in the animated series, and he's awesome.
But the way you talk about the animated series makes me think of the Star Wars Christmas special, so I'm hoping
well,
it's not quite like that.
Well, the animated part of the Star Wars Christmas special was actually pretty good. It was the only thing worth watching. I think
that's true. Yeah. Quick start rules, and I'll give you an idea of how they look. They look beautiful, by the way. It's not like you guys have just thrown a few words on a page. You've actually taken, I presume, some pages out of the final kind of core rule book and moved things around. And maybe I haven't done that, but that's how it looks.
Absolutely. Cut out a bunch of stuff that we didn't want to be given away too soon.
Yeah,
basically give you the core to make it happen. But you also can't create. You can't create your own characters in the quick start. You have to use the pre-gens, things like
that. It is great. So, core rule book, $50. It's like £35, something like that. So look, 40. It's hard to guess. The exchange rate is constantly fluctuating, but yeah, $1 gets you onto the pledge manager, which is helpful. So if you don't have the funds right now for when this is going to not fulfill, but when the campaign is going to complete in less than a week, then you can just get on there, and then you can still reap the literal Kickstarter rewards. Then you've got the digital core rulebook as a PDF, $25. I think that's fair when you understand how much time and money is spent on the actual source files that create a book, any book, but specifically graphic heavy books like this. There's a presumption, I say this a lot, there's a presumption that the printing is the expensive part, and therefore PDFs should be cheap and books should be expensive. The reality is it's not that.
It's the thing is it's I mean, the reason we settled on the 25 is
it's a good price.
It's about half.
Yeah,
it's about half. You know, so
I mean, I would say that's pretty subsidized, to be honest with you, compared to the printing of the core rule book.
I also think people don't realize how much, like, of the money when we sell a $50 book, you're selling to the distributor at 60% off. You're only getting 40% of your total price.
Yeah.
So it's not a. People think you made all this money at retail, and it's amazing when you break it down. Plus, not only did you pay your creators and pay to have it printed, but shipping costs now are a nightmare.
Yeah.
Getting it from over from Hong Kong to here. It's. I think during the pandemic, the cost of what are they called? A metal container on a ship.
Yeah.
It went from renting one of those containers for $4,000 to $24,000.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so you've got the logistics. The printing itself is kind of not that much, really, but it's the logistics. It's the every step of the chain, moving up to get it there, which is why Kickstarters pre-orders in general are so beneficial to the industry, because you're basically, at least to the industry specifically, because it helps to get it out there and actually cover the cost of the production in the first place. Of course, we want the local game stores to be successful. Of course we do.
Yes.
And that's why the markup is that high. It's going to be probably $50 retail, I would guess, around that. but
yeah,
at least
it might be a little bit. It might be a little bit more at retail. I think
suggested
we
retail.
figured out that you'd be saving some money for this.
Yeah.
But it's a 308-page book.
Yeah.
You're getting your money's worth for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that helps people to keep the lights on. But yeah, I would say that if anything, that PDF is probably a bit underpriced, which is not anything that anyone's going to complain about, apart from maybe your business people. The rule book, the hardcover, $50 thereabouts, $49, and then we start looking at the other books. So we've got was it the Answer Files? Yeah, the Answer Files, which is super cool by the look of it. So it's another 300 plus page hardcover, and there's a lot of lore in here. So this is what you were talking about with all your different player character, non-player character possibilities from the movies, the comics, etc., and just a bunch of stuff. Which I think
I just want to say something about the scroll up a little bit. Yeah, the spaceship there. Oh wait, we went past. Yeah, no, the other one, the one that's the exploded view. Oh, I guess go down. I'm sorry, go down. There it is. There it is. So all those ships were done by an artist named, his name is Shane Molina.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he did these amazing cutaway blow-ups, like exploded views of the ship from the movie and the one from the animated series as well. So it's this stuff is just awesome to have on your shelf if you're a Planet of the Apes fan.
Yeah, totally.
You know, as somebody who's worked on internal Bibles for these companies, I've tried to make. I know we were successful with the Alien book.
Yep.
We tried to make it the ultimate resource for it, and I think we've accomplished it again. So
yeah,
I really recommend it, even if you're not going to role play.
Especially with this book, the Answer Files, which is really a labor of love to the original source material, right? So, but that doesn't just stop there. In fact, there's Go Exploded View, which, yeah, it's just stunning.
That's the one from the animated series, yeah.
So, can I zoom in? There we go. How cool is that? Very cool. That's the answer. And if you disagree, then you're just wrong. I mean, it takes a lot of skill to even think in this kind of way, to this amount of detail. It's superb. But it doesn't just stop there. I was looking to see if I could spot it in here, but we'll come to it later. But there's also the adventure box.
Yeah, if you scroll past the slipcase covers.
There we go.
There it is.
So yeah, I spoke earlier about how important it is to me to have a published campaign, and the adventure box has exactly that. So it's like a starter set, right?
Well, it's not. It doesn't have the quick started, so it doesn't have the rules for it. It's more just it's an adventure and campaign set, and it comes with the game master screen and dice and cards that make it easier for you to deal with stuff at the table. You know, is rather than flipping back between the statistics of a guerrilla soldier you're fighting, you just got the card on the table, stats are on the back.
Yeah.
You know, it has two maps there, and it has counters. If you don't have the miniatures, those little punch out counters you can use for characters instead. So it's and it's so funny with the GM screen. Well, it's the lawgiver screen, it's not the GM screen. Sorry. So the LG screen. We kept going back and forth. It's like we commissioned art a few times for the screen, and we're like, this doesn't work. And then we realized that one of the first things that our artist Runa had done was to see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil from the court scene in the first movie. And I was just like, this is the best judges screen ever.
It's so cool. It really is. And it is also, I mean, just the irony of, as well as the courtroom scene. So, if you are the, so Dungeon Crawl Classics, for example, refers to its GMs as judges, and you are kind of doing it. You're arbitrating the game, so there's quite a lovely irony there. And Bruce says he loves the GM screen, and he also loves the artwork of the show. I agree; they're fantastic. And then there's the slipcases, plural. This, I will say, if you're the kind of person who needs to collect everything, then this campaign's going to cripple you, unless you're very well off. There are a few options for slipcases. You've got the yeah, so you've got a couple of options. You've got this lovely set here, which I think is probably my favorite, which is, yeah, it's got this kind of
I wanted to design a set. This one I designed. The publisher designed the other one, which we'll get into in a second. But this one I was like, okay, we need an orangutan book and a chimpanzee book, and we'll wrap it up in in a gorilla case. Godzilla. All right.
I'm all over that. Yeah, so that crossover is going to be amazing.
So the orangutan, the glyph that the orangutans mostly wear is the administration glyph, and that's on the front of the orangutan book.
Yeah.
And the chimpanzee book is the erudite, which is the academician symbol, and that's on the chimpanzee book. And on the gorilla symbol and a portion of the authority symbol from General Ursus's helmet is what finishes off the box set.
It's really cool. I really like this a lot. And
those are embossed.
They are cool.
Yeah, the logos are embossed.
That's really cool. So that's $150, presuming that you don't add other stuff to your campaign. But if you're feeling inspired, there is then the Ultra Deluxe Limited Sci Edition, which is also gorgeous, and comes with other things. So it's gilded. It's got a signed book plate by this guy called Andrew Gaska, and Bill Sienkiewicz. I mean, those guys are kind of important. They know some stuff.
Bill's an amazing artist. I have all his comics from the 80s because I was just reading those books at the time. And when I first did the illustrated novel for Planet of the Apes, the Conspiracy of Planet of the Apes in 2011, we had so many artists, big name artists lined up, and we wanted Bill to do an image, and he was super excited to do it. And unfortunately, he got scheduled to do something else, and it just didn't work out. So he said, "Well, I'll do your art for your second book." And Death of Planet of the Apes, when Titan put it out, it's a paperback novel. They didn't do the art. So I was like, wow, missed an opportunity to ever have Bill do anything. And then the publisher's like, what do you think about Bill Sienkiewicz for a cover? I'm like, yes. So.
Oh, go on then, if I must. Yeah, so there's only 250 copies of that set available. It's white and gold. I mean, it doesn't look pure white. Is it more of a kind of it's a textured thing, right? So
it's textured, and there's a little gray in the books themselves. Yeah. The slipcase is more white.
Yeah,
and the books are kind of gray.
Yeah,
and you can't see it, but on the bindings here are a series of the ape glyphs.
Oh, cool!
And to tell which book is which, the glyphs are on. So one glyph on each book side is in gold, like the front one is. Okay, yeah. They're in different positions to help you remember which one of this is which before you open up. Because on the front cover, it has the different logos, but on the side, it doesn't, So we figured out this is the best way to do it.
Yeah, so this is really there for the fans to really understand and delve into and love. Yeah, we've got the adventure box we spoke about already, and miniatures as well, which aren't shown here, but they were shown elsewhere.
No, the next thing, they're down the next thing.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep, there you go.
And yeah, I mean, they're really cool. Excited to see how the final production pieces look. Great if you're into painting, but I will stress, you don't have to be great at painting to make miniatures look cool. So even if all you do is literally just paint them like black and then spray some white on, or just get some ink, just you can get a painting ink to just pick out the details, and there are lots of guides out there on how to just with one single color, what they use for sun drop, technique which you can use for, or you can get some things pre-painted in, is literally just ink. It just picks out the details a little bit, and I do some miniatures painting, but I'm nowhere near kind of wanting to show my miniatures off in a Warhammer shop and Games Workshop kind of grade. But I kind of feel, if you can just make it look a little bit better than the grade that they came as, then you're winning, right? So you don't have to.
I'm kind of taken by the gray in some cases, because I have a shelf that's just gray miniatures, and like the McFarlane DC figures, they'll put out a gray version of the figure, And I've noticed, like, I've looked at the gray one versus the color one next to each other, and I'm like, there is so much more detail on this thing than the paint
Yeah,
just kind of ruined it on
you can
some
just
of them,
kind of
you
see
know?
it, right?
So, yeah, so it's like, I will admit, though, I totally intend to paint that orangutan and the sea serpent, because I think that they're just going to be fun to paint.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. But yeah, I mean, even if you just literally paint the whole thing white and then just get some dark ink just to go over it and just pull down into the shadows, into the crevices, it'll elevate it. Or you just repaint it grey just as a base and then just put some dark ink on there. It works really well. Bruce said, hint for the next Planet of the Apes campaign, Godzilla versus Planet of the Apes. I mean,
it's actually called, it's Godzilla on the Planet of the Apes.
Yes. Yes. That would be amazing. And then, and there's some more information about the packages themselves. And we're looking at, as we've started going through them, $1 to get onto the campaign. Really, you're looking at, if you want hardcovers, then personally, I'd be looking at probably for me, the $150 level would be where I would go. Or actually, if you're someone who likes miniatures, and you know I do, the $169 or the $250. So to get the core books and all the other stuff. So it really depends on how much space you have and how deep you want to go. But if you're feeling lucky, there is the Omega level, which is stunning. You get a copy of the super fancy slipcase. You get the miniatures. You get the adventure box, and you get this really swanky time capsule as well. Only 100 of them. See whether or not there are any left. There are quite a few left.
Yeah, there's 24 taken. Yeah,
24 have gone. So, if you can afford it, it's going to be amazing. Doing very well.
I just want to say also that with any of these tiers, if these tiers don't appeal to you because it's missing something, once you click pledge, it takes you a page where you can add other things on. So I think one of them is the core book and the adventure box. Choose that and then pick the answer book, and you'll get all 3 printed materials.
I was just going to see whether or not it'll let me do it without signing in. Yeah, absolutely. So you can see all of these things are available as add-ons. So you can do that. And again, as we said before, in the event that you definitely want to get involved, but you don't quite have the funds right now to add in everything right now, you can normally tailor these things in the Pledge Manager as well. So in a few weeks or a few months, the Pledge Manager will open up.
The key with that is that it has to have been unlocked.
Yes, of course. So
that's the important part. And that's why we're asking anybody who wants these special things, we need to unlock them first. And yes, so if we unlock this, like, okay, Statue of Liberty is unlocked, right? If for some reason you can't afford to purchase her now, she's okay. You can get her in the pledge kit, But if we don't unlock this higher calling set, it won't be in the pledge kit.
And that's where we're at now. And just look at that. It's not just amazing. Call out to, that's from the second movie, right? So.
Yep. The bomb is a separate piece. So.
Nice.
You can launch it.
I love it. It's given me flashbacks to the movie as well. You've really captured it really well. It's going to be a lot of fun to paint.
I had asked the sculptor, it's like, so we want the bomb, and can you give it like that little pedestal that was in front of it where they controlled the crystals?
Yeah.
And then he gives me this, and I'm like, I don't know how we're going to make this, but this is amazing.
Yeah.
Because I think the missile is 12 inches tall right there. So this thing it's not small.
It's not really a miniature, it's a bigger.
Yeah, it's a bigger. There you go. But we then sent it to the factory to get it priced out, and it's doable. So we're like, oh, okay, let's do it.
Bruce says the sculpt is one-shot deal. And how far are we off that? So it's 250k, and we need. Zoom back up to the top. Which help if I could actually. So we are $6,000 off. So, yeah. So 20 people getting the level with the slipcase and the miniatures. So 20 people get on there, and then we'll have that available.
I can tell you that there are 2 other major set pieces that have not been unlocked that we can't show yet. Let me rephrase that. One set piece, which is technically vehicle related, another actual vehicle, and a set of minis from a different time.
Nice.
That we are hoping to get to.
That's very cool.
In addition to that, there's also other freebies to unlock in between them.
And to at least get an idea of what these look like, we need to unlock the bomb sculpt, the Alpha Omega bomb, because then they'll give us the next graphic, right? So then we get to see what's coming.
We're definitely going to give you like the next 2. We just might give you the next 4 at this point, because obviously we're trying to drive it.
Yeah, some anticipation.
Yep.
Great. I think it's exciting.
It just allows us to bring you things that were only available as we were only able to create as promo items. So,
yeah, I think it's great. I'm very excited to see what comes next. The campaign's going amazingly well. I'd love to see another. Well, love it to double, but at least another 150. 200.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Fingers crossed.
I think at 150, we might unlock everything. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't guarantee that. I think that would unlock everything. So
that'd be amazing.
At least would get us most of everything, and that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because and when I designed, I worked with as creative director, I worked with the sculptors, I worked with the artists, and my vision for this was always, what would I want to buy? Like, what would I want to see on the shelf?
Yeah.
And because it's the same thing with Alien. I'm a fan, in addition to being a professional that's working behind the scenes. So, what can we do that's going to make fans happy, and it's going to look cool as F? Okay.
Yeah. You can swear. We're in the UK. You can swear if you want to. I don't know if Disney will like it.
Cool as fuck. Okay, it's going to look cool as fuck. And can make it in a way that we can afford to make it. So that's what the goal here has been, to give you the ultimate Planet of the Apes experience.
Yeah, and I think you've done a really great job, Drew. Genuinely, it looks fantastic. I'm really excited to see how it all turns out, and get those actual plays and see people playing this at the table. And then obviously for the next campaign, you can get all the cosplay stuff in as well. And it's going to be great. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate we've overrun a fair amount from the original goal for this interview. And thank you so much for watching, everyone. There was some trouble at the audio at the beginning of this interview. I'm sorry about that. Managed to get that fixed up. So, which is why for a little while you couldn't hear me, because I was beaving away trying to fix stuff. So there were some challenges. Thank you so much for joining. It's been way too long, and I can't wait to talk to you again for we can always touch base and see how this campaign is going, or the next project that you're working on. You've got so many different licenses that you currently work with, and I'm sure there's more on the horizon. So
there's so much more coming that is in the works. It's crazy. I don't know. I'm so happy that Alien's success has led to me being able to do stuff for all these franchises I've loved.
So we've got Alien, Terminator, Carbon Grey, Planet of the Apes, and probably many more hiding.
Yeah, I can't say what they are yet. Say what they are yet.
But we'll be keeping our eyes peeled. Thank you once again for joining. Thank you, everyone, for joining as well. If you've enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. Please let us know in the comments what you're excited about with this franchise. Which of the Planet of the Apes movies is your favorite? Let us know in the comments. Which is your favorite, Drew?
Well, I can't compare the first to the rest, because the first is a masterpiece by itself. But the rest turn into a saga. So taking the first one off the table, I'm going to say the fourth one, Conquest.
I definitely haven't seen that one.
Okay, so in that one, it's the far future of 1991, and um, dogs and cats died of a mysterious space virus
Hmm.
in 1983. So this led to people taking apes as pets and then pretty much using them as servants and then abusing them.
That's
So
no fun.
it is about it's the time period where apes still can't talk,
Yeah.
um, and it's about what leads to the rebellion, apes taking over the planet.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
There's
and
a lot of
there's an
social commentary
extended,
to unpack there.
absolutely, the director based everything on the Watts riots from the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got a lot of controversy because of that. And there was the original version released was very brutal, lots of blood,
Hmm.
and with a very chilling ending. And it upset test audiences in Texas.
Yeah.
So the theatrical version that we've seen for years didn't have the blood in it, and it's so funny. It's like Roddy McDowall plays Caesar, who's the son of Cornelius and Zira.
Oh,
Okay,
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, yep. So at the end of the movie in the theatrical version, he's like, "We're gonna kill everyone," and then all of a sudden they do a close up like this much of his face, so you can't see his mouth, and you hear Roddy McDowall saying clearly in the studio, "But for now, we will put down our weapons." It's just like, and it's just like, oh, lame. And then so in the past, I want to say in the past 10 years,
Yeah.
they restored the director's edition, and it's available on Blu-ray. So
Awesome.
sometimes you can find it on streaming, but it's definitely on Blu-ray. Um, and it's the better version of that movie. It's so amazing.
So I think we're gonna have to maybe the Dark Orb. We'll see if we can do like a watch party or something, um, and go through the
Invite
Planet
me
of the Apes
if you do.
movies.
I'd love to do it with you.
Let's do it. Let's see if we can work out a way to do it across the pond. And yeah, that'll be amazing. I guess we should wrap up. Thank you once again.
Yeah,
Beautiful to see you.
thanks for having me.
Thank you also for just having the guts to be persevere. And I know that Planet of the Apes box, you kept closing it up and putting it back on the shelf, but it's open now. And I'm sorry to say that the tape's all worn off, and you're just gonna have to deal with it now. You're not putting it in another
It'll
box,
never
dude.
close. I'm not complaining.
Good. Take care of yourselves, everyone. I really appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your weekend if you're watching this the weekend it's gone out. And until next time, I hope, my friends, that your dice rolls are way better than mine. Thank you very much and take care. Good night.